Today I'm going to finish out the bottom of the boat. I've got some wax paper laid down across the keels. I'm going to cut out a couple more pieces of wax paper to cover the strips that are left here. And so I have all that set before I start mixing up some epoxy. So what I'm going to do is lay down some epoxy on top of what already is on here, put the wax paper on top of it, squeegee the wax paper onto the epoxy so it's nice and smooth, and that should give me a nearly glass smooth finish to the bottom of the boat. So I do have a couple of little patches that I am going to have to make before I do that. One here, one there, one up there. This is where I cut out the fiberglass that didn't quite lay down exactly as I would have liked. So move some of the stuff out of the way. So I'm just going to dump some epoxy in that hole if I can't even see where I'm at. Got a patch to put there, a patch to put here, a little patch back here, and then figure out what to do with the area back here. I might just drop some epoxy on there. By the way, I did get the front of the stem faced today on the sander. It's nice and perfectly level on both ends. The bottom I sanded just a tad bit. The top, this is where I had a little bit of a mismatch. It is perfectly smooth now. Inside, not concerned about. Tomorrow I'll route the edges. Each edge, 4 corners, as well as the top 4 corners, get routed at a 1/2 inch radius. So I'll do that tomorrow. Oh, and I bought rubber gloves today, so no more fussing about my hands getting all covered in epoxy. Rubber gloves. Alright, so I'm going to mix up a pretty decent batch. Probably go with 12 tablespoons. To start with, this should go quite a bit farther than the other night. It's a mosquito in here. Freaking November. Anyway, this resin should go a lot farther tonight because I'm not wetting out any fiberglass other than a couple little patches here, so should be able to get quite a bit of coverage with just the 12 tablespoons here. So get it mixed up. Okay, good and mixed. And we'll just take it over here and dump it on, spread it out, and then cover it with wax paper. It actually should be pretty easy to do. This step actually probably isn't really even necessary on the bottom of the hull, but I decided to do it just because I do want to paint. I am going to paint the bottom of the hull, and I want to make sure that it's going to accept paint decently. So that's the main reason for doing it. With the glass patches wetted out first. Alright, well, it's working okay. It's a little more cumbersome than I would have liked to see, but it's working. I'm just working on the last keel here. I shut the camera off just because what I was doing was essentially exactly what I'm doing right now. and it's kind of boring to watch, and it just makes for a bunch of video that I just edit out in the end anyway. So I'm just finishing out spreading the epoxy over the entire bottom. Just give it a nice thin layer. And as I said before, put wax paper down, and hopefully it comes out nice and like really smooth with minimal sanding required. There will still be some sanding because there'll be some high spots, I'm sure, but this should make it for a much easier finished product, or much easier path to a finished product, I should say. This side is actually much easier to do than the other side was, because this side doesn't have any patches on it. The fiberglass laid down super nice on this side. And as I said when I started this probably isn't required on the bottom. It's really more for aesthetics, mainly on the top and on the sides of the fuselage, or the fuselage, there you go, airplane talk, on the sides of the hull, just to give it a nice smooth look, so when it's painted you don't see the weave and the fiberglass. But I figured might as well just go ahead and do it on the bottom, because it's going to get paint, and a smoother surface will go through the water better anyway. So now all I got left is wax paper, and then squeegee it down. So there's going to be some ripples in the epoxy. That's inevitable, but it can all be fixed and sanded after it cures. And like I said, it's just so much easier to sand when it's really nice and smooth like this, versus trying to sand out the fiberglass from the weave. So if I end up with some ripples and ridges, no big deal, those sand super easy. So 2 more pieces of wax paper, and I'll be done for tonight. You can also use cellophane plastic to do the exact same thing. Neither one of them sticks to the resin. Oh my God, my fingers are a disaster. Even though I wore gloves, those spatulas that I was using had some old residue on it, and it's stuck to my fingers, and it's disgusting. Gross. And here is how it's going to wrap up the night. Bottom covered in wax paper. Tomorrow this will cure, or this will cure overnight I should say. Nice and smooth like that. See, I do have some ridges that are going to form right here. That'll all sand super easy. And this will seal out everything that's left. That's a wrap for today.
Tad for Wisco Boater. It's time to sand some more. I've been sanding a little bit this morning on that side. Now I'm going to do this side.
can see what it looks like sanded. So the objective was not to get it perfectly smooth, as I mentioned just last night when I was recording the first part of this video. The idea was just to sand down the high spots. And you can see quite easily where the high spots were, and the white areas where there's a little bit of a trough, but it's not deep. I don't want to go too far into this because I don't want to get into the weave, and actually I did in a couple of spots. I'm in the weave there, into the weave there, you can see right there. So those are going to have to be touched up with a little bit of epoxy or maybe some filler, but it's not a big deal. This is going to get painted with bottom paint, and it'll be all completely covered up. It won't be seen anyway. So happy with getting the high spots sanded down, and now I'm going to run the blower and clean everything up. I don't think I'll video that because it's going to be a bunch of noise. So yeah, dirty job. All right, so here it is, all wiped down. Just use some 90% alcohol, and the high spots are just barely, you can barely feel them. I do have a few, like I said, a few little spots I'm gonna have to, might just put a fillet all the way down each of the keels with some fiberglass filler, just to be sure that's nice and smooth and everything's protected properly. So I'm going to clamp the stem, since my sawhorses are in use. Clamp the stem to the side of the boat like that, use it as a bench top, and then I'm going to route the edges of that, get that done. Time to route. What I was doing there is just essentially erasing tooling marks left behind by the blade, but that's looks great. There's the front, nice and smooth. Looks really good. All right, time to blow everything off again. Welcome back to Wisco Boater. Today I'm going to fill in some of the small areas of the bottom of the hull here that got exposed when I was doing the sanding the other day. This video is kind of a conglomeration of a few days of work, and I decided to put it all together as one video just because multiple videos of little clips here and there didn't really make a lot of sense. So what you saw just a little while ago was where I accidentally broke into the weave when I was sanding. So I'm going to fill that, and there's a few little spots on the bottom here that are just a little bit rough. They have like a rough gouge that I'm just going to put down some Bondo fiberglass filler. This is Bondo glass. Again, same product line that I've been using. This is a great filler. It's really, really easy to use. It's already fibrous. And all you have to do is add cream hardener to it and then spread it out. It sets up in 15 minutes and you can sand it. So that's what I'm doing right now. And then once this is done and cured, and if there's a little bit of sanding to do, I'll take care of that. But I'm ready to flip this thing back over and start working on the top. So getting really, really close. I'm excited about that. So let's get going with some fill on. Probably won't be able to see what I'm doing over here, but I'll show it when I'm wrapped up with this portion. Okay, so here's what I did. Just did a little fillet along here. That was the main area right there that I got into the weave. This stuff is again, like I said, it's great. It works very, very quickly. You can use it to fill like low spots in the epoxy. Also came up here, did a little filler work along the front of the keel. And I'll sand all that nice and smooth. It'll look pretty. I'm gonna make another batch. I'm gonna go over some right here because there's some weave that's exposed right along here. And then like right here, there's a gap in the epoxy right there. So those are the kind of areas that I'm filling. And the stuff works great. It's easy to mix. Mix it in small batches. You use it and then throw it away, and throw the whatever's left away because it starts to set up fairly quickly. Mix up some more, and do it again. Super easy. I like it. I like this stuff a lot. By the way, one of the other things I really love about this stuff is when you sand it, it doesn't create a lot of dust when you sand it, which is awesome in a little shop like this, especially when the door is connected to my kitchen. And this way, I know I'm not going to be blowing a bunch of dust into the air and then introducing it to the house, which, you know, Brittany doesn't like the smell of this stuff. I'm sure my dogs don't really care for the smell of this stuff either. And getting it into the house and into the ventilation system, I'm sure is not really healthy for anybody either. So it sands nicely, doesn't put a lot of airborne dust, or it doesn't introduce a lot of airborne dust. So good stuff. Alright, I'm trying to push this one a little too far. It's starting to set up a little bit. I've got most of the areas addressed that I wanted to address. There's a spot there. And I'll probably put a little more up here. So maybe one more batch, maybe two. Cut this spot out. This is a good song. All right, well, I'm gonna sand to the music. I might fast forward on the video, so sorry. Great song. By the way, I'm just using a block sander at 60 grit and then some 120 grit paper to smooth things out. This stuff sands so easy. I love it. Sanding in general sucks, but if you have to sand, this stuff is easy. Not as easy as like sandable paint. They're way easier than epoxy or resin. Warmer outside today, 34 Fahrenheit. Again, I'm just knocking down high spots, rough edges, Doesn't matter. 4 or 5 knots is all I'm going to do in this thing. And does not matter. I will make it count where it matters. I've built 3 airplanes in the past. All of them turned out very, very nice. I like things that look nice. I like functionality. But I don't like wasting time where it doesn't matter. This stuff pretty much just sits right on the deck. There's not very much airborne dust with this product. There's another reason I like it. Got my sweatshirt dirty. Yeah, I like corn, but not that song. Anyway, I know there's probably a lot of you out there that are not Packers fans, but you know, I live in Wisconsin. Packers fans are way of life, and I love it. Plus, my mom gave me this sweatshirt, so I love this too. All right, now I'm going to spray it down with 90% alcohol, just to wipe off the excess dust. Clean it up nicely. This gets a lot of the dust out of the little tiny scratches made by the sandpaper. And I would use 99% alcohol if I could find it, but no place around here carries 99%. I used to work at a fixed base operator at an airport where the private airplanes come in, which is why I used to fly for a living. And it's not why I used to fly for a living, but that's where I worked when I flew for a living, doing charters, and flew for a couple of private families. And when I was building a couple of airplanes that I built there, I had access to all of the fluids and equipment and everything, and I got used to using 99% alcohol, which was a great cleaner, sanitizer, but I don't have access to that stuff anymore, so I gotta use what I can get, which locally, best I can do is 90%. 70% is rubbing alcohol, and 90% still used on the medical side of things, but you can find it at Walmart. It's almost as effective as 99%. This looks really, really good. I know you can't see me, but right here, where I'm wiping off, everything turned out really, really nice. It's nice and smooth. I don't have any catch points, nothing that's sticking out. The burrs are all gone. All right, this is the wrap up of the bottom of the hull other than paint. It will get a coat of primer. I've got some marine primer from Pettit that I'll be using on this, and then I've got some bottom coat. After the Pettit primer, I'll put on the bottom paint, which I have left over from the Regal when it got its new bottom paint. So it'll work out perfect. I think there's just enough left to coat the bottom of this. So I'm gonna flip this thing over, and I'm gonna call the bottom of this done until it comes back to time to paint. So until next time, which is gonna be really soon, because I'm chugging away on this tug, I don't know. And I don't know, maybe I'll video flipping it over if I can, depending on who I have helping it. If it's Brittany, she probably won't want to be on camera. I'll video after that. If it's my neighbors, one of my neighbor buddies, I'll definitely video the rollover of the tug. But really happy with the way this turned out, and looking forward to getting it flipped over so I can start working on the top side again. Next will be I will do a layer of fiberglass on the top side, which may or may not video that. It's the same thing I just did, just on the top. So I'll probably do that, and then work on getting the stem and the sides installed. So this is a great session, and hope you'll join me next time. We'll talk to you again soon on Wisco Boater.